Oh, thank God, I've been waiting to do this all day. Ah! My nipple's really cold. And erect. Oh my God, one of my nipples are hard. Okay.
Just one.
Just one. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Retro Alliance Gaming. How are you all doing today?
How's your nipple?
It's still f***ing cold. It's freezing. My nipple is absolutely freezing right now. Okay. Oh, and I'm about to knock over the back thing.
Dun dun. There's a glass thing of roses up there. That would be bad.
Yes, it would. I'm just going to go ahead and make a prerequisite to this video. I want you to understand that when I say the top 10 most overrated games, I'm not saying that these games are bad whatsoever. I'm not saying that they're terrible. I'm not trying to attack all your childhood games. In fact, a lot of these games that are in here, I actually like a lot. Some of them I completely dislike, which I'll probably point out in the video, but just letting you know, no need to get butthurt. Post a comment below and let me know what you think about it, and we're going to go ahead and get started again with the top 10 games that I find most overrated.
Number 10.
Resident Evil 4. Wait, there's nobody in the room, is there? Ah! Resident Evil 4, okay. This is one of the most beloved Resident Evil games in the entire series. If you look up Resident Evil 4, people literally compare it, like, for example, for Final Fantasy, it would be Final Fantasy 7, and for Resident Evil, well, that would be 4. Everybody says this game is the be-all, end-all to Resident Evil. This is the game when Resident Evil finally fully evolved into being the best it can possibly be. And I 1000% disagree with this. Now, again, before you freak out, I don't actually think Resident Evil 4 is a bad game at all. In fact, I actually think it's a really good game. I just don't think it's good for a Resident Evil game. I wish it was called something else, or even Resident Evil blah blah blah, some kind of a spin-off. And what I mean by that is, okay, so you have Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Resident Evil Code Veronica. Resident Evil Code Veronica is actually Resident Evil 3. That's another story for later in the future. And if you play those games, they have this perfect progression. So you go from Resident Evil 1, and they're in the mansion. You go to 2, they're in the city. 3 is a side story. And then 4, Code Veronica. It's this huge explosion of a game. And spoiler alert, you can leave in 3, 2, 1. Okay, at the very end of Code Veronica, after you go through all this crap and Claire's locked up in this facility, and basically what ends up happening is her and Chris are on a plane, and the very next line they say is, time to go get Umbrella, or let's go get Umbrella. And that is the game I was waiting for. Everybody was waiting for this epic finale. We had these 4 amazing games, and it was like, holy shit, finally, Chris and Claire are going to infiltrate the out of Umbrella. This is going to have a completion, and this is going to be great. So that's what I was waiting for. Resident Evil 4 comes out, and I watch the opening. What do we get?
The United States government issued an indefinite suspension of business decree to Umbrella. Soon its stock prices crashed, and for all intents and purposes, Umbrella was finished.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get...
And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, what? Umbrella's a story, what the hell happened to the game in between that? And then when you play it, they completely changed up the gameplay in every other kind of way. It was more action-y, and blah, 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 so forth and so on. I know all you guys are going to say, well, this was how you moved the series forward.
No.
I would have been fine with them eventually changing the way that it moved a bit forward, but my main issue with it is that we never got that completion story,
closure
closure between Resident Evil Code Veronica, Resident Evil 3, basically, moving forward, and that's a huge problem for me. And then to top it off, the game was nothing like Resident Evil. It wasn't scary in the tense, creepy kind of way that I wanted it to be. It was a lot more action-based, and I kind of felt like it was the beginning of the downfall of what we got when we got 5 and 6.
Yeah, you were right.
And I was right. That being said, 4 is still a great game, way better than 5 or 6. It is just not a very great Resident Evil game. So, there we go.
Plus, that one chick is really annoying.
What?
That one chick.
Oh God,
name?
Ashley. Ashley
yeah.
never shuts up.
Leon!
She just never shuts the up. Ashley, shut the up. She's the most useless character to exist in a Resident Evil game. Pure and simple, end of story. Okay.
Number 9!
Xenosaga. Okay. I love the Xeno games. So we have Xenogears, and we have Xenoblade, Xenoblade Chronicles X. Love those games. I got Xenosaga, and I'll admit I have not played all 3 of them. I played the first one, and that game, people act like it is this amazing, epic RPG. You never get to do anything in it. And when I say you don't get to do anything, I mean literally. It is cutscene after cutscene after cutscene. I love cutscenes. I love story because they progress the gameplay. The problem is, there's no gameplay. I sat there listening to like a cutscene for an hour, and it was pointless. They were talking about just random things, and then they're just like, well, what do you want to eat? I don't know, I want steak. Well, I think we should have chicken. Well, are you sure we should have chicken? Maybe it's lower in fat.
Come on, everybody, let's eat!
Let's eat! Shut down!
Well, not bad, huh?
Chief, it's delicious.
Yeah, this ain't bad at all.
Oh, come on. How can this girl's cooking be any good?
But, Captain, you're stuffing your face.
Ah, shut up. Don't disturb a man when he's eating. Water.
Sure.
You do quite a lot.
Really? This is pretty typical for me back home. I have my no-good brother to thank for that. He doesn't do a thing all day except sit around and read books.
Well, there's no one on this ship that has any of your skills.
That's a shame. I guess that's what happens when you have an entirely male crew.
You got that right. Normally, there's not even a hint of estrogen on this ship, so you can forget about having a good meal.
Dude, get to the point. So the cutscenes were uninteresting, and it was boring. And when you finally got to the gameplay was okay.
Okay.
Are you sure about that?
It was decent. It was kind of fun. But long story short, Xenosaga, I nominate as the most boring game I've ever played. And no, I will honestly say I dislike this game. I played it 15 years ago, though. Maybe if I try it again, might come back.
Number 8.
Okay, don't get mad at me. Silent Hill Original. I could hear the sound of crickets on our YouTube of everybody unsubscribing or anybody
Wait,
coming.
just listen.
Just listen to it. It's not how it...
Just listen.
I'm gonna let you know, I'm a huge Silent Hill fan. I love Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2, one of the best horror games ever made. Silent Hill 3, same thing. Silent Hill 4, I actually enjoyed that game quite a bit, moving forward, going on. Silent Hill 1, when that game was announced, I had just come off of this Resident Evil high, and it was this amazing, dark, psychologically fucked up game. And how can I explain what I don't like about the game? It's nothing to do with the graphics, it's nothing to do with the environment, it's not even the layout of how the game is played. I just thought the game was kind of slow and boring, and I like slow. I watched Titanic like 13 times.
He's not exaggerating.
No, in the theater, but nothing came together well for me. The story was not cut and dry from beginning to end, and a lot of people are going to argue there's a lot of interpretations, and I get that. It's an open game where you can kind of interpret it yourself. Some people will say they figured it out.
Sadly, you have no imagination. No, I'm kidding.
But I felt like the game just... the story didn't feel that strong to me. I didn't find the game that scary. I didn't find the concept of the cult in that particular game to be that creepy. I just didn't get that into it. I didn't even find the enemies to be creepy. Nothing really enveloped me in the game. And when I got to the end, it was just kind of meh, but it made up for it with Silent Hill 2, and 3 with the cult I thought was phenomenal. But 1 for me, boo. Shattered Memories on the Wii remake. You're gonna hate me again. Really like that one.
Number 7.
We're gonna go ahead and move on to the Call of Duty series. I don't even know what to f***ing say. Call of Duty. Call of Duty came out, and I'm not particularly into those kind of games, but I do enjoy the occasional game like that. I do enjoy shooters and different things, but Call of Duty is a series that they were putting out every single year over and over again, and people were buying them in the millions and the millions and the millions, and what I don't like about it is they're exactly the same every single time.
Sometimes they use the same maps.
Sometimes they use the exact same maps. They take stuff from the other games. There feels like there's
Don't they
no
have microtransactions
innovations. I think there might be, but it feels like there's no innovation. I feel like there's no soul to the game. I feel like they're not trying to do anything new. And I played quite a few of them, and then in the beginning they were semi-okay, and as they went on, they got worse and worse. Like she said, they just kept rehashing it over and over and over. And then what did it end up becoming? It became an online game that a bunch of 9-year-olds got on and started spamming people. It brought negativity and freaking people...
I'm pretty sure that would happen in the other games too.
And, well, a lot of other games, and people just spamming and crap and hating and just all the swatting, all the crap they did, but really that's not what it's about. When it comes to the core game, no innovation. I feel like there's no imagination. You point, you shoot, and that's it. And for me, that is just not something that I think should sell in the millions. I feel like something like Final Fantasy should be a game selling way higher than something like Call of Duty.
Number 6 with extra dip.
Grand Theft Auto. Okay, so Grand Theft Auto came out. What did I think about it when it was out on the PS2? I didn't see a great point in it. I wasn't one of the people who was arguing that nobody should be playing this game. I don't normally argue anything about video games and children. I don't think that they're making kids bad or murdering people or hurting them or anything like that. I personally wouldn't let my child play the game until they were a certain age, because it's literally just all prostitution, sex, drugs, and violence.
I was pretty traumatized by
So, what would you like?
Yeah, well, yeah, me too, but it's not that I think the game causes harm. I don't like the games, and I never have. I know they have their main stories, which I find to be blah, all the side stories that you're running around. It's basically you're shooting a bunch of cops, again, having sex with prostitutes, drugs, things like that. I can see where the appeal is. I'm not saying it's a terrible game. I'm not going to even say it's a terrible game. It's a game where you can run around and do almost anything you want. I mean, it's a huge game, but for me, it didn't quite cut the cake. The kind of games that I would play in lieu of that would be something like Saints Row, which is not only a sandbox game,
funny,
but they're funny and they're beautiful.
Especially 4.
And they have great. 4 is amazing. They have great over-the-top stories. They're fantastic. Games like that, or if I want to play another really great sandbox game, I'd play something like Yakuza with deep story, great side quests, and they just feel like they have a bit more heart in them. So Grand Theft Auto, while it's an okay game, I would have to say it is definitely one of the top overrated games next to Call of Duty.
Number 5.
The Assassin's Creed series.
This is for Serena.
Do you know what? So when Assassin's Creed first came out, I bought it, and I really loved the idea of it. You had these big open areas that you could run around. You had to sneak up to kill people, going to the highest building in the world and jumping off of it. I thought there was a lot of cool aspects to the original. Now, the original wasn't for me, but I don't think it was a bad game. I just think people blew it up, and I thought it was, again, overrated.
There is a lesbian in the new one.
Which, well, I guess that might bring it up a notch. But the thing that ended up bothering me is I kept trying to play them. I went to Assassin's Creed 2. I thought it was okay. I went to Assassin's Creed 3 and I stopped. In the beginning, I would say they were more creative, even though I still think they were, again, an overrated games. But what ended up bothering me is it ended up turning into something like Call of Duty or the other games where they were spitting them out literally every single year. And then they were spitting them out so fast that they were completely up and almost unplayable without patches. So again, it felt like one of those machines where they just said, okay, people like this and we're going to push them out as far as we can. I don't see the heart and soul when I'm playing these kind of games. I heard the newest one they have was actually pretty decent, but then they added like 1 billion microtransactions. Call me old school, guys, but that's another thing that's with a lot of these games. I get with modern times, I get how it is, but I don't like microtransactions. If I pay $60 for a game, I want it all. You want to add DLCs, that's fine, but don't take something else away from me that way. So maybe the new game coming out is supposed to be amazing. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it'll change my mind if I give it a shot. But in the meantime, Assassin's Creed, I'm going to have to go ahead and say no to.
Number 4.
Let's Dance. What can I say about Let's Dance?
Okay, if you want to dance, just go.
Yeah,
dance.
if you want to dance, go to the club. Go outside.
Join some choreography classes.
Dance in the shower. I do it every day.
Hip-hop classes.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, she hears me from here. I'm in there blasting girls, just want to have fun. Wait, did I admit that? Yeah, I probably shouldn't admit that. I mean, I'm listening to Pantera and I'll rock. What can I say about Let's Dance? Is it a terrible game? I don't really consider it a game. I guess it is. No, I guess if that's what your thing is. For me, it is standing there with Wiimotes or in front of a Kinect and trying to imitate moves.
It's not like DDR.
Just moving your arms. I feel like there was no way for me to get into that game. Like she said, DDR or Guitar Hero or anything else that you're playing.
Rhythm games that are actually rhythm games.
You're having a blast. You're getting exercise. You're getting really into it.
Not Guitar Hero, but
yeah,
DDR.
I basically feel like Let's Dance is the same as if I bought an instructional tape from the 80s, like an exercise tape.
Exactly.
Come on, grannies! We're the dancing grannies.
I don't feel like you even need the motion because I don't feel like it's an actual game. So, Let's Dance, how about Let's Not?
Number 3.
Mario Sunshine. Oh God, I love Mario. I love Sonic the Hedgehog. I was a Sega and a Nintendo kid. A little bit more of a Sega kid. Love Mario, played every 2D and every 3D game available. Mario Galaxies 1, Mario Galaxies 2, both of those are amazing. Mario 64, amazing game. I haven't gotten the chance to play Odyssey yet, sadly, but I'm sure it's amazing. What is it with Sunshine? It's a beautiful game. The graphics are beautiful. The world is beautiful. The controls work perfectly. Everything about the game is well made and looks fantastic. I just could not get into it. I didn't like some of the collecting you did in it. It drove me absolutely insane. I didn't like how the setup was to go into each one of the levels. I just feel like it was a step behind what Mario 64 was, and I felt like they were supposed to move forward, and I feel like they moved in some weird side direction. So, not a bad game at all. That's actually one of the ones I like, but again, Mario Sunshine, no. Let's just say,
Number 2.
Kinda scared to even mention it. Final Fantasy VII. Now let me just try to explain this really, really quickly to you guys, okay? When it comes to Final Fantasy VII, I was there. I am older, and I have been there since the beginning with these Final Fantasy games. And I remember when Final Fantasy VI came out, how it was one of the most amazing games ever made. It was brilliant. And when 7 was announced, it was like, oh my god, we're getting a follow-up to Final Fantasy VI. And not only are we getting a follow-up to this game, but it's going to be 3D and on the PlayStation. And when it came out, it was innovative. It had a story to it that was great, and all this different stuff that was happening. And basically, it seemed like it was a perfect product of its time when it came out. Here's where my issue comes in with it. People literally act like this game is the be-all, end-all to every single Final Fantasy game. There is nothing else that exists that is as good as this Final Fantasy game. I will say that I played through it and I thought it was a really fun game. It actually took me about 35 hours to actually start getting into the story. I felt like it was very slow to start, but at the end it came together. It was very emotional. It was good gameplay. There was nothing really mechanically wrong with the game, but being overrated? Absolutely. God dang it. Whenever you mention any other game, people say, no, Final Fantasy VII, 7. They made sequels to 7. They made a movie, Advent Children, about 7.
They complained when they made another 13 game, like, no, make another 7. No one wants this. Like, I want it.
No matter what people do, they always hark back to 7. And now they're, of course, remaking Final Fantasy VII. So
sort of.
Well, sort of. You can look at another video for that. The obsession that I see with that game, I don't understand. What bothers me is when Final Fantasy VIII came out, people were hating on it. They acted like it was one of the worst games ever, and how it couldn't even barely touch Final Fantasy VII. And then with 9, people liked it a lot more. They thought it was great, but it still couldn't touch 7. And I just honestly feel that Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX were far better games than 7 was. I think 7 deserves to have acclaim. I think it deserves to win awards, and I think it is very deserving to be there, and there is nothing wrong with the game, but is it the best Final Fantasy of all time? Absolutely not. And is it an overrated game? 100% yes. It gets way too much praise, I think, while the other ones are sitting in the shadow that is Final Fantasy VII.
Number 1!
Okay, guys, and for the finale, we have The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild.
Oh my God! Okay, are we good? Are we good? Is the armor done? I'm getting really hot. This has to come off for now. You guys have hit me enough. I get it. Let me explain. Breath of the Wild is absolutely positively not a bad game. I cannot reiterate this enough. In fact, I would say that Nintendo making Breath of the Wild is one of the most impressive games that they have ever made. They went above and beyond what they've ever done with any game that they've ever made, stepped outside of their comfort zone, and really managed to make a giant, beautiful world with amazing mechanics, amazing graphic styles. The game is definitely well made, and it is great. But is it a 10 out of 10 from 40 different reviewers, from Metacritic, from everywhere? I have to say no. In fact, one thing I remember that upset me is that one guy actually rated it slightly lower, and when he did, and he actually made the Metacritic score go down a bit. This guy got like death threats. Literally,
what is wrong with you people?
Dude, we're sending
It's a video game.
Death threats. It's like,
would you like that?
Yeah, would you like that? It's a video game. Get over yourselves. I sat there and I played this game non-stop for a week straight, okay? And I mean, I was on it 8 to 10 hours a day, sitting in that chair, and when I wasn't sitting in a chair, I was laying on the bed before I went to sleep, and I was playing this game. It started out where I was really getting into it, being introduced in the world, and you're coming out and you pretty much don't know everything that is going on. You have to fend for yourself. You can go straight to the end of the game. All these elements came together, and I thought this might end up being just the best Zelda game I have ever played. I am not the hugest Zelda fan in the world, but some of my favorites are Twilight Princess, Wind Waker,
Majora's Mask,
the original Super Nintendo Link to the Past. Great games. I
liked Phantom Hourglass.
Phantom Hourglass, which I haven't gotten the chance to actually play through. I've only played through it for a few hours. Where my issue started coming from is, as I was running around, I started going to the shrines. And I went to 1 and 2 and 10 and 20 and 30 and 45.
Yeah, it's a little exaggerating.
No, I did a ton of shrines. And what ended up happening, and I think there's like, 128 in it, is I started getting a little bit tired of doing the shrines, so I wanted to find other stuff to do. And the problem I have with the game is people were acting as if Nintendo introduced some kind of new element to open world games, like something we've never seen before, and that is absolutely not true. Nintendo did something they've never done before. They did something for The Legend of Zelda they've never done before. But what I felt like is I felt like I was running around this ginormous world that took all this time and effort, but it felt empty to me. I felt like there was nothing there. Is there side quests? Absolutely. But you have to seek them out and find them in towns, and they're not plentiful. One example that I want to make, and I'm not trying to compare games, but when I'm playing an open world game, I want it to feel real and lived in. And when I'm playing games like The Witcher, Horizon Zero Dawn, or many Skyrim, Fallout, there was so much going on in the world. You're running around Skyrim and you see somebody in the distance and you don't know if you want to even approach them because they might attack you, or maybe it's just a merchant, or maybe they're going to give you a mission. Like, it's like real life, and you just never know what is actually going to happen in these games. Another thing I loved about these games, like The Witcher, for example, is that even when I was heading for the main quest of the game, it seemed like I got distracted every other second because there was always somebody with a side quest, and these side quests were big and beautiful, and the stories in these side quests were so good. They were practically as good as the main story of the actual game, and it just felt like I was really in this world. But with Breath of the Wild, you don't get that. When you're out in the open, other than, yeah, you can manipulate all your environment, and you could go hunting, and you can cook, and hobgoblins and everything else, I felt there was nothing there. There was nobody running up to me, or nobody that had an urgent mission that they needed me to do.
People might argue that you're not playing it right, but when it comes to open world sandbox RPGs, you need to have a world that feels lived in. You need to have a world that feels like that somebody can have a completely different experience from somebody else, but they're always doing something. It's just like, oh, this happened to me with this person, or this happened to me with this person, or I did this with this mission, instead of, oh, I played it, but I couldn't find anything to do. That's not a good experience.
No.
And if that's possible, it's not really possible with Skyrim and The Witcher and games that if you actually play them, it's not possible to have that kind of experience, because something will always happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
Breath of the Wild, that's not the case.
That's the thing, and this is what my personal argument is with the game, is I feel like they made this beautiful open world, and I feel like they didn't take full advantage of it. In fact, I feel like that world started feeling very, very empty to me. And my second complaint, the story. We all know what the story of each Zelda game is when he's reborn. We all know about Ganon, and we all know about Zelda. We know how this works, but there felt like there was no story. And if you wanted to see a story, you have to search for it. You have to actually really work hard.
And the other games bring the story to you.
Yeah, to get minutes, just maybe a minute of backstory that you have to search for. And it felt like too much work with too little payoff. At the end of the day, what I feel like Nintendo was moving in the right direction. I really feel like they were. I feel like they got the open world down and they did well, but I feel like they need another game. And when the next game comes out, I think if they marry that open world with stories that are more like Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess, or even Skyward Sword, which I was not a big fan of, but even story-wise, I feel like they need to marry it together. I just felt like there wasn't enough to be able to explain how big that world was.
Not as immersive as it should be.
And it was not that immersive, and when it comes down to it, while it was a beautiful game, I got kind of bored. That being said, I would give it probably maybe an 8 out of 10 even at that point, even though story is very, very important to me and there was no side quest. But that's just how I feel about Breath of the Wild. I do understand why all of you guys love it, though.
And why you hate him.
Yeah, I understand if you hate me, and you can post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Again, I'm not saying that I hate these games, except for some of them like Call of Duty, but, you know, these are just my opinions and my thoughts. I gave it a really, really good try, but at the end of the day, it didn't match up to me on other Zelda games I played, and it definitely didn't match up against other open world games that I played. So, 10 out of 10? Out of 40 different reviewers and everywhere around the world, I'm going to have to go ahead and say very overrated. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate all your support. If you have any comments, maybe about games that you guys think are really overrated, please post it down below. We would love to hear it. I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope you don't hate me too much. And other than that, stay tuned for another Horror Corner episode coming soon. Anyways, guys,
Spooky.
as always, until next time. Put that at the end. I keep laughing. It's not that funny. Stop it. Okay,
push your hair back.
Huh?
Push your hair back. No, wait, this.
Wanna be on top?
That looks good.